Hi, all. Thanks so much for watching the Stephanie Feals show. I'm Stephanie Feals, and I am here with Mike Cannon, who is a Broadway actor, and also we share an aunt. So that's a pretty fun thing. My gotta love Aunt Debbie.
Oh
So
yeah,
thank you so much for being here.
Aunt Deborah's. Hey, thank you for having me.
We had a lovely chat because we've, even though had the same aunt for all of our lives, haven't ever met in person, or at least not to our recollection. So it was good to chat with you. And so you are now in New York. You've been in New York. Why don't you just tell us briefly about your journey from Pittsburgh to New York,
Oh gosh, briefly.
or as long-winded as you want?
I took the turnpike to got no
Did you go through the
so
Lincoln Tunnel like Elf?
I didn't walk though.
That's
Um
good.
I moved to New York when I was 23. So a very, very long time ago. And I moved here because I got an off-Broadway show called Bear, Bare. It was set in a Catholic high school. I needed people that looked like teenagers, and at the time I did. And I sent my headshot and resume back then, I mean, through the mail with a note like, "Hey, I would love to audition for this." And I was like, "This is never gonna happen." And then they called me. They're like, "Hey, we got your note and we would love to have you audition for this." I'm like, what? Okay. So got up here, auditioned a bunch of times, and then got the job. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in an off-Broadway show. This is amazing. We did the show off Broadway, making very, very little money, like couldn't even really survive, like not even buying a coffee, like literally like pinching the pennies. I lived with my friend Ryan Stana, who's also from Pittsburgh, and now is an extremely successful business owner with RWS Global. Um, and we did the run, and it was super successful. And they're like, "Hey, just so you know, like this show is going to Broadway. Like we're opening this new off-Broadway theater that's bigger than this. So we're gonna start there, get even more steam, and then we're gonna move to a Broadway house." And I was like, I've done it. Like what? I've done it. I've achieved the dream. I cannot believe it. It's my first show. Great. Like a week before we were about to start rehearsing for the next off Broadway production, they said, "Hey, just so you know, the show's canceled." I said, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's canceled. Like, money, we had to put stuff here, so really it's not gonna be picked back up. So sorry." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I've been waiting like at that time I waited like 2 months for the next leg to reopen. And I'm like, what do I do with my life now? I'm here in New York. I don't have a job. I had never been in New York without a job, even though the first one didn't pay much. I didn't have a job. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I started selling merchandise at the Broadway theaters, programs, shirts, whatever. And gosh, how long was it? It's probably like 7 or 8 months later doing the merchandise. And the merchandise was great because I could be in the theater community. I could watch shows, watch people doing what I wanted to do, get inspired, see what was out there. Auditions normally aren't during Broadway shows because they want the Broadway people to audition. So I wouldn't miss any auditions. While the show was running, I didn't have to sell stuff. So I work on my sides, work on whatever I needed to do. Um, and I was doing the merchandise for this show called All Shook Up. I was at the Palace Theater, and I closed up my, station, went into the back of the house, and I'm watching it, like I always did. And the choreographer for Bear was there, and I said, "Hey, Sergio Trujillo, who is like awesome, super successful." Um, I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Mike, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm selling merchandise. You want a shirt?" And he didn't get my sense of humor. He was like, "No, I don't want a shirt," because he was working on the choreography side of it. He was now choreographing the show. And he said, "Can you do this number?" And because Bear was very heavy singing and acting, not a tremendous amount of technical dance. So I watched it. I said, "Yeah, I could do that." He said, "Can you come to an audition on Saturday?" It was like the next week. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I got that show. That was my Broadway debut, was All Shook Up. And so that began kind of like, my journey of doing Broadway shows. And I just finished which was amazing. Um, just finished my seventh Broadway show, Tommy, at the Nederlander Theater, which was my dream show. It's the first show I ever did professionally in Pittsburgh, at the Pittsburgh Musical Theater. It was after my freshman year of college, and I was getting paid, I think, $100 a week, and I thought, I can't believe someone's paying me to do theater. This is outstanding. I love this, and I love the show. I love rock music. And after that was done, I mean, literally my first show, I said, I have to do this again. I want to do this show on Broadway. I want to play Captain Walker someday. This show is outstanding. And I got to do it on Broadway. I went on for Captain Walker like 14 times. I also played the minister in my normal track. But yeah, it was a dream come true. And so like that's kind of like the short of, of my journey to New York. There's so much in between, but that's where I sit right now.
That's incredible. What was that like the first time you said that you joined the theater track later in life? You were 16, you said you walked in and it was all these kids who had been doing it since they were very little. So what
Oh, at
inspired
the
you when
Academy,
you
yeah.
were 16 to start doing this? Because it clearly is a passion of yours now. So how did you just
Yeah,
find
I
that
don't.
later?
Oh man, well I played sports all the way up until then. So I love competitiveness and physicality. And the year before my freshman year, which would be eighth grade for all you mathematicians, um, I went to the high school to see a production of Oliver, and my younger sister Diana was in it. And she's like making friends with people in my grade. I was like, what? This is BS. Like, I should be being friends with all these people. How's she friends with them? No, 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 no. Next year I'm doing the musical and I'm gonna make some friends. And that's why I did it, to make friends, which just amazing because I was such a shy kid. To think like, oh, I should be on stage to make friends. Like, so bananas. But yeah, so the next year I did the high school musical to make friends. I did make friends, and I played like a little role in Bye Bye Birdie. And after that, I was like, I really love this. Because I was so shy, I said, it's kind of cool that I get to go on stage and be somebody else. Because if someone says, "Hey, you were crazy," or like, "Oh, you were super funny," or like, "I didn't like this," I'd be like, well, that was the character. It didn't fall on me as my personality. Um, but it really opened myself up to like be like, oh, like I guess it was all about like, I was shy because they didn't know if people would like me. I mean, I guess that's why most people are shy. They try to hide themselves. I don't know. But I definitely was like, I was able to open up and show people sides of me that they didn't know I had, and they liked it. And like it was like I'm not like crying in my bedroom because no one likes me. Like it was cool. So I'm like, hey, I like theater. It started to bring out my personality in my daily life, and I really enjoyed that. So then after that, I was like, I want to do more of this. What else can I do in theater? And one of the girls in my show, she went to the Civic Light Opera Academy in Pittsburgh, and she said, you could take classes down there. And I was like, whoa. I mean, we don't have money for classes. I don't know what would I do. And they said, well, you could take the boys' jazz class. And I said, well, do I take my trumpet? Because I play trumpet. They're like, no, jazz is a style of dance. I'm like, so no trumpet. They're like, no, it has nothing to do with the trumpet. So I went down and took this boys' jazz class. And when I went down there, yeah, all the kids at the CLO Academy were so intense. They were like, I mean, like I was telling you, it was like they were on Wall Street. Like they were walking through the halls with their binders and with their dance shoes and just like focused. And I'd never seen kids that way. I'm like no one's joking around, no one's pushing each other, smacking each other. Like everyone's like focused and intense. What is happening? And there was just like this culture of like a strong work ethic and eye on the prize, and we all want to be successful. And whether they knew it or not, they were all pushing each other to be better because they were getting better by focusing and working hard. So it was this constant, like, fight to be better and to compete. Um, and that bred like such an amazing kind of culture down there, and really, you know, gave birth to so much talent out there in the world right now from that time period at the CLO Academy. I mean, forget it. I don't. It would take so long for me to name the successful uh, people that I went to the CLO Academy with that are here in New York or LA or wherever. I mean, it was awesome time there. And so I studied there for 4 years until I went to college. I went and yeah, so I think that was like really the beginning and the reason why I'm here is that intensity and that training that I got there.
Did you feel like you had to catch up whenever you first walked into that?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I was 16 and I was in ballet class with 9-year-old girls, and they were all laughing because I was terrible. I mean, I was awful. I don't have a facility for dance. Like, my body's not made to be dancing. It's just like, I mean, I have an extra bone in both of my feet that makes it difficult for me to point my feet, which is one of the biggest things of dance. I can't go up on my toes to turn as much because of that reason. So it's like so many things in my body that say like, dude, you should never be dancing. Stick to the acting and the singing, but dancing, no. So, I mean, luckily for me, I don't know why, but I had this mindset of like, all right, I have to work twice as hard and I have to like shut out all these voices that are like, you know, the kids that are laughing at me because like I'm not on the same path as them. I just got to get better myself. And someday yeah, I will be at that level. And it took like every day going in and like being the hardest worker to start to surpass or get to the level of talent that was there at the academy because they had all been there for, I mean, since they were so young. They knew each other. I was like the new kid on the block at that time, and a boy coming into a theater program at 16 was like bizarre. Like, who's this kid?
At
He
what
did one
point?
musical and he wants to train to do this for a living. Actually, I didn't know I wanted to do it for a living at that time. I just wanted to get better.
That's what I was. My next question was going to be: at what point did you realize? Was it when you sent that off and you got bare, or was it because you said you didn't think that you were going to get that? So,
Yeah.
what did you think your life was going to be versus what it ended up being?
Well, oh man. I was walking down the hall at the academy, and like my senior year, and one of my teachers said, "Hey, like, where are you going to college? What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go to Point Park for communications." And they said, "Why would you do that?" I was like, because I hear theater is really hard, and it's hard to make a living and have a family, and I would want to do that at some point in my life." And they said, "I feel like if anyone could do it, Mike, it's you." And that was the point.
It's amazing what somebody recognizing that in you can do. Because, like, I think you and I talked about this separately. Like, there's this feeling like you can do it, but I don't know. Sometimes you have to hear that from someone else.
They know more than you do about it. And so like you can have this, I guess, faith, and kind of like, perception of yourself and what you feel like you have the ability to do, but when someone that they know what's up says,
Mhm.
"Hey, you could do it." Like that's like, "What? Okay, well, I'm not crazy.
Mhm.
I'm not like what's inside my head is like what other people see too." So,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, if they wouldn't have stopped me and said that, who knows where I would be, but I would not be here.
It's a weird thing, and since you started at 16, I wonder if you experienced it at all. And I imagine you probably did, particularly when you went to college, but, like, people are real supportive of those wild dreams when you're young. And then whenever you
Oh,
get to the point of like life, then they're like, I had somebody say to me, like, when are you going to get a real dream? And I can't tell you how that's still on a regular basis. I'm like, you're going to see, you're going to see. Like, I am doing this. I do that well with my other show, but like, watch
and
me.
those are the ones that will stick with you, right? Well, that's the thing, like our society, we put these people up on pedestals that have those crazy wild dreams and achieve them, but we don't support the people that are working at that. Like, when I'm on Broadway, when I was on my TV show, so many people, wow, you're amazing, you're doing it, you're stuff. But like right now, my show just closed last week, and if I said, to someone, I'm an actor, and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm on unemployment right now." They'd say, "Oh, well, don't you have a family? Like, what are you doing? Like, you got to figure this out." Like it'd be very like they'd be on me about, hey, like you cannot be a father and a dreamer, but if you are at that level, if you're achieving it, then all of a sudden, oh, you get all the accolades, and everybody wants to be doing that as well, or you know, cheer you on, But it no, like the real work, like it takes you don't just happen there. Like it takes this time and the faith during this time to get to that point, and you just gotta keep working hard.
What is
And I
that like when
feel
you experience that? Because it, I can definitely imagine how that would be incredibly frustrating that you have probably some of the same people that are cheering you on are those same people questioning that. But it's like, you've known that I've been doing this for 2 decades
yeah,
in New
yeah.
York. Why
No,
are you
yeah.
still bewildered about this?
Yeah, well, you know what? The people that really get me, that really know me, that really understand me, they are always supportive no matter what. You know, like and my wife is the most supportive in the world. Like if she wasn't, I probably would be doing something else. But she has, if I have faith in myself, she has it times 100. And same with my parents. My parents are always so supportive. And they're like, if there's ever a rocky time, they're like, how can we help you? That's awesome. And if I didn't have that, maybe I would have given up a long time ago. Um, Definitely when I said I'm going to college to be an actor, they said, Mike, you're the shyest person we know. And I said, nah, I think I could do it. They're like, all right, we'll trust you. And, if they wouldn't have done that, who knows where I'd be. So like you have those few people that get you, and those are the people you listen to, and you shut everybody else out.
I love that. With your wife, I mean, you're equally supportive of her. You obviously, she's one of your favorite humans on the entire earth. So, how does that work? How do you find somebody? She's a tremendously successful choreographer. How do the two of you do that? Because I loved when you said a dad and a dreamer, and people say you can't be both, but you can, you are. And so, how does that work? And with a wife who's in the business?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a roller coaster of highs, the highest highs and lowest lows. Like we can both be doing our thing at the top level at the same time. We're like, oh man, yeah. And the next week we happen to have no job at the time. We're like, oh man. But I have full faith that she's so talented, and she's like the greatest human in the world. I know, like, even if there are some low points, like the highs are going to be so much higher, and she's going to be so successful. And even if she wasn't, even if I wasn't, like, we have each other, and that's all we need in this world. Like, we're not looking to buy boats and, you know, $1 million mansions. We're just looking to put food on the table and spend our days together, and, raise some, good human beings. So that's all we need. Um, but yeah, it's also awesome to be so successful. Like, let's take a baller vacation. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna say that isn't cool too. But yeah, I have so much faith in her, and she has a lot of faith in me. So like, we just keep dreaming together and keep putting up our vision boards and looking at them every day. And I think we're pretty successful just having each other.
What's on your vision board?
Oh man, just our hopes and our dreams. Sometimes we have like just like positive affirmations. Sometimes we have pictures of you know, like a beautiful like beach that we want to, like travel together. We want to do that. We want to what's one that we have? One of our I think it says something about like enjoy the work you do every day. So like sometimes even though you're living your dream, like 8 shows a week on Broadway, it gets hard. It's tough on your body. Like we closed a week ago and I still have a swollen left knee that I danced through. Um, so you can get like, oh man, I got to do the show again. Or you can have change your mindset and be like, this is what I love to do. Let me remember like there are times where I have not been able to perform on Broadway, and those hopefully those days are going to be, you know, not as many as the days that I do perform on Broadway. And I'm here right now and I'm doing it. I'm going to be able to, put my gift out there onto the stage and hopefully, inspire people out there in the audience, tell the story the way it's supposed to be told. So I'm going to like take charge of this moment and just like, thank the universe for every second I'm on this stage. So, um, that's up there just to a, a gentle reminder of like, yo, like even though if it's tough, you didn't sleep the night before, like you're on, you're living your dream. So we have, stuff like that on there. Um,
I think that's one of the interesting points about any profession. No matter how good you are at it, how much you love it, how hard you work to be there are days that still you're human and it's like
yeah,
it's a job. Like, oh dang, like, oh, they're going to whatever, the beach today. Like that sounds like that would be really fun. But ultimately you have people who've bought tickets and are paying to see you, not just anybody, but you guys, which is incredible. And so is there a moment in every show that you get to a point that you're just like, holy crap, I'm here? Like that has to be a wild feeling of just knowing that these people have paid, they're sitting there and they're watching you and you are carrying on the legacy of whatever that show is.
yeah. Oh my gosh. So like a couple hours before one of the shows, they're like, yo, Mike, like, guy playing Captain Walker's sick. You're gonna be on tonight. I'm like, all right, great. Looking at my notes on the way in, I get in there, I do my warm up, costume on, standing backstage, and the curtain goes up, and the ensemble is on stage, and then they exit, and then I have my entrance. So the curtain goes up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had this dream, this vision so many years ago, and I'm here, and I'm about to do this. Like this is incredible. How? How did this? And your nerves are like, bubbling up inside you, like, can I do this, for a second? And then you say yourself, no, you can do this. And that's why you're here. You always have those like, questioning thoughts in your head. So isn't that so interesting? Like it's you have this one mind and it can be like fighting itself like in the same moment. You're like, how is this going on? It's my brain and I'm literally fighting myself. All my good thoughts are fighting my bad thoughts and vice
Mhm.
versa. Um, but yeah, so I'll always remember that being ready to go on, having my captain's hat on, be like, man, I'm about to live my dream. Here we go. So,
That
so excited. Actually, the final point of that story is that like so I did that whole performance and I came off stage and there's Pete Townsend. He saw the show and Des McAnuff, who is the director. And Pete was like, mate, what a great job. That was amazing. Oh man, wow, so interesting. What a good. And I was in shock. I said, thanks. And I walked away into my dressing room. I had no idea. I mean, no one said Pete's in the audience, Des is in the audience, like just so you know for your show. And actually, I was a little bit sick that day, so my vocals, I was trying to navigate some stuff, so I was a little in my head about, like when you have anything and you're about to sing, you're like, okay, I can push this note and really give it my all. This one I'm gonna have to pull back on. So already I was like, "Oh, thank goodness I did not know they're in the audience, or my nerves would have even been higher." But to come off stage and see them, I was like, I just performed that role for Pete Townsend, who wrote the this rock opera, and Des, who they jointly wrote the musical, and he directed it. I could not believe it. I'm like, I just did that for them. That was the dream. I mean, that was insane. That was such a special day.
What a moment.
Such
Holy
a
cow.
moment. Oh my
Where do you go
God.
from there? How do you then,
I don't know. I have no idea where to go from there. That's pretty darn good.
especially when it's the show that you said that you always wanted to be in. You always wanted to be in Tommy. So
Yeah.
for it to be that show of all, not any other one, which would have been still
Yeah.
spectacular.
Yeah. I've done some pretty awesome shows. I've done some pretty amazing parts. I got to play Tony in West Side on Broadway. I covered that role. I got to play him. I did a few roles in a chorus line. That was just so amazing. Um, but yeah, that took the cake for sure. That was amazing.
What is the most meaningful part of being part of the group with them,
Um,
of any show?
well, like I said, I did TV for a while, and coming back to theater, I would say that it's pretty the community is so special. Feeling like I felt like I came home. I felt like you know, it was so interesting. I go into Times Square before I was doing Tommy, and like I used to belong here. Like I used to be a part of this, all these theaters, all this hubbub, see people coming from the dance studios, going into their stage doors. Like I used to be a part of this community, and I'm not anymore. And get being able to be a part of Tommy, I felt like, oh man, I'm back in the community. And one person in your show, they know 10, 20 other people that also know you. So you're starting to connect with people. Oh, so and so's going to lunch. Do you want to say hi? Oh, they're at the stage door. And so you just like you're around all these people you've known for so many years, casting directors, choreographers, at the Tony Awards, it's every show that's nominated on Broadway that season. And it was just a room full of these amazing, successful people that I've known for 20 years. And it was so great to be back and part of the community and seeing people again and hugging them and saying, "How are you?" I left um I was in Aladdin when the pandemic happened. So that was like, "Hey, don't come to work tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks." That turned into 4 years for me because then I left. I was doing TV for a bit, and the pandemic took so long. So really, it was 4 years between me being on Broadway, and it was so good to be back, in the community.
Is that your forever professional home at this point now that you've done both at high levels?
I don't think anything is forever in entertainment. I mean, there are a million things that I still want to do, but I'd be okay if I didn't do anything else. I mean, Broadway's so special to me. Um, but yeah, I don't really have any like set plans of like I need to do this, this, and this. I'm just excited for the next opportunity.
What is it like to then go home? You're a dad of three, you're a husband. So all of a sudden, like, you're on Broadway, you have this community, you're with these people spending hours and hours, and then you go home and you're dad. So what is that like? Is that a whole different world, or are those two worlds pretty intertwined?
Oh yeah, like I mean, it's one thing is my kids are so supportive of me being an actor, and they love coming to see the shows. Like my one of my greatest shows was like looking out in the finale and seeing my son Cooper and my daughter Cameron like pointing at me like from the audience. And same thing the day that Jen and Carson came, they're just like, yeah, like rocking out in the house. I'm like, this is awesome because I prepared for that, well, role my whole life, but when I got the audition, I had a month to work on some of the material, and I sang it like probably 100 times every day for a month, and they were like, "Dad, like, can we lay off of Tommy for a bit?" I'm like, "No, I have to practice. I have to be ready for my shot." So the fact that they went through all of that and then got to see me in it was like so special. So it's amazing to have a support system here at the house, especially my kids. Um, in fact, I was reading a book one day. It was it's an acting book. It's the title is How to Stop Acting. It's basically for TV, like, I guess it's like a technique. And my kids were like, "Are you gonna stop acting?" Like, no, no, not how to stop acting. It's how to stop acting. So it's funny. They're like, they love that I'm an actor. Um, but yeah, like, the younger cast members, they go home and they just like lay down like, "Oh my God, I just did 8 shows this week. Like, I'm exhausted. I'm gonna just watch TV for the next day." And they have every right to, and they should be relaxing, and it's hard work. I don't get that opportunity. I come home and I'm like, "All right, what do you guys want for dinner?" Or like, "All right, I gotta cut the grass," or "Okay, like I have the day off. Let's go do this. Let's go to the beach. Let's do this." So there's no like kind of me time when I come home. It's about them because I you are away a lot, on the 8 show schedule. And like my wife, she's a choreographer and she was out of town for 6 weeks, and it was just me here, also doing 8 shows, but like all the drop-offs, all the middle of the night, hey, come in here. Um, I'm scared or whatever. The youngest one wakes up in the middle of the night, wakes up super early. I'm like, buddy, can you just snuggle with me? Like, I just got home like 6 hours ago, you know? So it is a lot of extra, but it's so worth it. Like, the success is just heightened that I get to share it with my family. And, that's so special to me.
And it seems like such a lesson too that they have a privilege really that they've gotten to see you. Before we started the interview, you talked about your process of preparing for these things and always staying ready. It's not like when you know an opportunity is coming up, that's when you start preparing. You said shared the
Yeah.
importance of constantly doing this. So in our last couple questions, what is that like? Just how do your mentality about always being ready?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, the lesson I try to teach my kids is that like great things don't just happen to people. Like you have to work for it. Like we see, the Steelers playing on Sunday. We think, "Oh yeah, like I want to play NFL football." You don't see their day in, day out. Their off-season regimen, their on-season regimen, all the stuff they go through to get ready for that moment or to get ready just to go to a tryout to be on the team. That is focused. It's rigorous. It's tough mentally. It's tough physically. So I was like, I want to show them like I have to work hard down here in this basement so I can do this on Broadway, you know. And I think I hope they learned a lesson. We'll see. But yeah, I just being ready for your opportunity is the name of the game as an actor, singer, dancer, whatever you want to call anyone in the performing arts. Some people do it all, some people do one thing. Um, but being prepared, physically, every single day, I'm like, all right, I need to make sure that if someone says, hey, can you come in and do this dance, that I can do it. Because that's how I'm going to get the job and how I'm going to be able to still, support the family. Same thing with singing and acting. I'm constantly working on it so that it's like a mental thing of feeling confident when you go in the room. If I'm going into a room to sing some rock song and I haven't sang in 6 months, I'm not going to have that confidence. Um, and I know there are other people that, although it's an art form, sometimes it's competitive. So I know there are people out there that haven't sang for 6 months. And so immediately I'm going to put myself above them. So, I feel like hard work pays off. There's never a time where you're like, oh, I work too much. It's like not a thing. So I want to be able to say like, hey, I did everything I could have and I didn't get it. And that's just them's the breaks. That's that's what's happened for this show. I didn't get it. But I couldn't have done anything different. I couldn't have prepared any more. Um, to like that's my job is to work so hard that I can say that. If I say, man, I didn't get that, but I didn't really work on the sides, then that's on me. Um, and already this business, the statistics of getting jobs on Broadway are really stacked against you. So give yourself the greatest opportunity, is what I feel. Give yourself as many tools as possible. Like, you're like, all right, let me learn the guitar. Let me learn how to play piano. That's why I feel like I'm pretty well rounded that that I can act, sing, and dance because I've practiced them all. I've taken classes in all of them because I want to, if there's an opportunity that they say, like, all right, this role has to do it all. I want to be the guy rather than like, oh, I can't really do that because I didn't practice it. I didn't work on it. Like,
You should have
I
played
made
what
myself
was it, a trombone during
the
jazz class.
trumpet,
That'd be the
trumpet.
trumpet.
Yeah. Yeah,
Then you'd have a whole new niche. So,
totally.
final question, what don't people know either about you personally, about the field that you're in, about being a working actor and a dad? What don't they like? What is the thing that you feel is the biggest misconception about the entire world that you live in, whether it's living in New York City or again, any realm? But what is that thing that you feel like, dang, people just don't get this?
I think maybe that there are a lot of downs. You know, I teach a lot of workshops to young students and schools that come up here to New York, or sometimes I come back to Pittsburgh and teach, which is always fun. Um, and they'll say, "Wow, like, that's amazing. Like, you've been working for 20 some years on Broadway. You've done 7 Broadway shows. That's awesome. Like, you're so successful." And I say, "Yes. However, I've gotten 7 Broadway shows. I probably haven't gotten about 200, maybe even more. Like, the amount of times that you hear no is a lot. So you have to have the confidence to say, I got a no for that because that was everything did not line up for that show, but there is a show for me. Again, if you have the confidence that you've worked as hard as you can to get to this point to when there's an opportunity to take it, to show yourself the best way you possibly can. So the amount of times you hear no, it like way out definitely outweighs the yeses, and you have to have that confidence to say to keep going and the faith to be like, all right, the the right one's gonna happen, you know. Um, that is the misconception. I think that people think that once you're on Broadway, you just do it. No, yeah. Oh, you do Broadway, you just do it. Cool. Like, no, you don't just do it. Like it, and you start fresh every time. I didn't go to into Tommy and they're like, you have 6 Broadway shows, so you're good. Yeah, let's sign you up. No, I auditioned against everybody else. Um, some had just as many shows, some didn't have any. It doesn't matter. Like, are you ready for this role or not? So um, being able to take the no's, that's what probably why uh most actors are like, out of the business within a year or 2 years of coming to New York. Because it's really hard. It's hard to live here in this city. It's super expensive. Um, it is, you know, it's a rough city. There's a lot of stimulus coming at you. Just walking down the street, you're like, oh my gosh, the horns, the people, the screaming, the this, the that. There's so much stuff happening. It really takes a toll on you. So there's a lot of things that you have to get through just to live here. And then to hear all the no's and be like, what am I doing? Like I feel like I'm by myself in this city. I left my hometown where it's quiet and easy to live and wake up, and you hear the birds chirping and everything's great, and I that it's yeah, I think the city is tough to get through, and the business is tough to get through, and you have to have this confidence in yourself, if you want to do this for a living, um, uh, that that you can, just like my teacher said, like if anybody can do it, you can, to keep like remembering that. Um, that's very important because there's a lot of downtimes, there's a lot of no's that you're gonna hear.
Amazing. Thank you so much for giving us a look
Is that
behind the
too
curtain and
much?
into your life. No, it was fantastic. So
No, no,
thank
yeah,
you, thank you, thank you.
you got it.
And thank you all for
Thanks.
watching. We'll
Thank you
talk to
for
you soon.
having me.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.